Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Triangle Offense. The mid-table Eastern Conference teams, because it seems all very crowded out there. The Heat are in contention. They're back in fourth spot. The Celtics are dropping downwards. The Knicks have remained there surprisingly since the start of the season, and they haven't dropped. The Hawks are trending upwards. The Raptors are just a few games away. The Hornets have always been there. So it's a very crowded mid-table out there. Let's talk about the Atlanta Hawks. They won 6 in a row. The new coach is finally showing how to play. Trae Young has been putting up incredible numbers, 26, averaging 26 points and almost 10 assists every game. Gallinari seems to be reborn. He's shooting threes. Capella is leading the league in rebounds per game. John Collins is doing well, regardless of his contract running out of the end of the season.
That's why he's doing well. He's up for a payday.
DeAndre Hunter is going to come back to the Hawks as well. They look like a team on the upside, and we did predict that the Hawks look like a top 6 team at the start of the season. Now they're finally they're finally playing like it, I would say. Do you think they can sustain this nice little run they've been getting?
No.
Okay.
I think we looked at the depth that the Hawks had. We looked at Capella coming back from injury. We looked at Collins coming back from injury. We looked at they've added a few shooters. They got Bogdan after the Bucks botched it, who's been miserable, by the way, this season in shooting, right? He's been atrocious. So we looked at all of these things and we probably overvalued them. We said top 6, they're kind of 7, so we weren't way off the mark. But I won't be surprised if they drop from here. In fact, if I were a betting man, I'd say both the Bulls and the Knicks have a better shot at dethroning the Hawks than the Hawks have of keeping the position right now. There are like 4 teams below them, all of whom I would be willing to invest more faith in than the Hawks, just because of how inconsistent they are at this moment. Now, if the new coach works wonders over the next 2 months, great, I'll sing a different tune. But I think with Trae Young, a lot more than with Luka Doncic, it seems like we have a Westbrook sort of situation. An elite player always puts up numbers, never fails to disappoint, exciting to watch, just doesn't get the outcome. With Luka, I'll give him a pass because that team was sort of gutted. They lost some key talent. Porzingis was out for a while and he's come back, but honestly, he looks miserable. On the defensive end at least, it's not the same Porzingis. I don't know what it is, but it's not him. So you would be willing to give him a leeway, and Luka's also proven himself in the postseason. He was fire against the Clippers last season. So Trae Young's leaves a lot to be desired in that department. And since he's the face of the franchise and he's the leader of the team, I don't have much faith in the Hawks. I like what Knicks are doing with their team and Tom Thibodeau, especially their defense. These are the teams you can bank on, right? Teams that are predictably good on defense are teams that you can bank on in the long run. Offense will come and go, there'll be patches, but you rarely have a bad patch in defense. It's a lot easier to make things happen on defense than it is to make things happen on offense. Bulls might be a punter's bet because it's Zach LaVine all or nothing. With Indiana, they started off bright. They kind of tapered off a bit. But I think they've got at least one interesting move up their sleeves. I think teams will come for Miles Turner. Depending on what they offer, I think they should make that trade. Give Sabonis the absolute freedom in that department. And let's not forget, they lost Oladipo. And his replacement has been out for a long, long while, and he's just now coming back in the form of Levert. They've also got TJ Warren set to come, but I really wouldn't expect him back this season. I think he's done for this year. He's probably going to come back next season. But Levert back is a good sign. I'm really excited to see how he fits into this role. And I wouldn't count them out either. So that's another team that can rise up. So the Pacers are 17 and 21.
Yeah.
Right. The Hawks are 20 and 20, right? So the Pacers have 3 games in hand, first of all.
Right.
They pick up 3 wins. They're a game behind the Hawks. So it's really not that much. We're not even... we're just past the halfway mark in the season. So I'm looking at 4 teams below the Hawks, and all of them can potentially take the Hawks. The Bulls would be the only one with an outside shot. I wouldn't count the Raptors out ever. I think they'll come back strong. They've got a bunch of people coming back from injury, so I'm not too confident about the Hawks. I don't think it's sustainable.
Okay, I agree. And I I think Trey Young gets a lot of unfair hate, I would say, just because of the way he plays his game. He draws those fouls, does all those fancy moves and
Oh, for
nutmegs.
sure. I would 100% bat for his right to do those nutmegs and all of that. I have no problem with that. My only issue is it doesn't translate to wins often enough. Do a nutmeg, don't do a nutmeg, 360 dunk, nobody cares. You put a win on the board, you put a win on top of this, that's superstardom. That's upper echelon elite superstardom. You don't do this and get wins, that's still better than where you are right now. I think that's the only distinction that I have no problem with this showboating.
All right. There was this one interesting poll I found on Twitter, and I thought I should ask you this. If you had to pick a point guard to choose to start your franchise today, amongst the three of these young point guards, Trey Young, Ja Morant, and Lamelo Ball, all of them incredible in their own right. Who would you pick? I would, if I had to go off, I would pick Ja Morant, and I
Yeah,
think
I'd
he
be,
had
yeah.
their vote on that poll as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's a debate. It's too easy to pick Ja Morant at this stage. Goes both ways. Gets wins. Put him in a half decent team. He's going to deliver wins. I said this last season. I'd go so far as saying I'd probably pick Ja Morant over Zion Williamson in the draft.
Okay. All right. So that was the Hawks. I don't see them staying up in that place either. I think they're due for a few losses.
I think
And
they
like
don't either.
I like the Indiana Pacers. I predicted them in the top 5 or top 6. So I think they will rise up as well. Uh, Next up, the Boston Celtics. They have some big problems, don't they? Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown putting up very identical numbers every single game, but not translating to anything. They lost to Utah Jazz and they look pretty miserable against Jazz yesterday.
Yeah.
What's going on with the Celtics? Do you think they can even finish in the top 6, or do you think it'll be a mighty upset if they don't?
Yeah, oh, for sure. Couple of things, right? They lost Gordon Hayward. Though he was in and out, it's still a loss. They lost Marcus Smart to injury for a lot of games. They then lost Kemba for big chunks. Again, something that happened last season also, but all of these things add up and they pile up, and when they happen in parallel, it's a problem. Marcus Smart going off is a death blow to their defense, because it's not just one man's ability; it's his coordination, it's his leadership. He's their floor general on defense. He's their spirit animal, their chief motivator, their everything on the court. So no Marcus Smart, big problems. And it's fine. Let's not forget Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are both very young players. Like, they play at a level where you're thinking we're all thinking they're like seasoned pros and they deliver chips for fun. But they are young players, and it shows sometimes. There are things that maybe they don't have experiential learning or enough of it to, and so then it's a learning curve. Then it's them having to figure out how to deal with this adversity, how to deal with a lean locker room where more is asked per player in production in minutes played. How do you deal with the fatigue that ensues, and how do you plan for recovery? I wouldn't be too alarmed, but I think one problem, look, Marcus Smart will come back at some point, and you're going to have to hope that Kemba finds his feet. Like, he's playing, but he's not really dominating, you know what I mean? Like Kemba can. So they're going to hope that he comes back. But I think their biggest problem to solve would be in the big man department. Tice is nothing to write home about. We said this last year also. Then they got in Tristan Thompson. He's been... I think his best time was when LeBron made him look better than he was. It looks like it. This was a max contract guy at one point. I don't think he's that anymore. They have a big problem there. They have a problem on rebounding. They have a problem on defensive presence, rim protection. One of the many teams that could probably use Miles Turner. I can think of a bunch of them right now that could make a play for Miles Turner, or should make a play for Miles Turner. Great rim protector, and gives them the spacing that they could really exploit, because all of them can drive to the rim, all of them can exploit the paint and the driving lanes in Boston. Miles Turner's 3 shooting ability gives them some good spacing there. So that would be a good trade for them to go for. But they've got to solve that big man problem one way or another. Maybe do they wait for a buyout, bring in Drummond? Maybe. Do they wait for a buyout, bring in McGee? Maybe. But Turner would be a good move. Another person I'd watch out for is LaMarcus Aldridge, who's going to exit the Spurs, and they'll probably buy him out. So he's not what he was, especially defensively. I think he's lost a lot of pace, a lot of athletic ability. By pace, I mean his ability to move quickly in and around the paint. He's lost athletic ability, looks like some amount of strength, but he is still an experienced, seasoned pro. That can still offer some level of defense and some still pretty good offense. Like his mid-range jump shot game is so underrated. So he could be another one on their radar. And again, there'll be several teams interested in Lamarcus Aldridge if they can get him on a veteran minimum. So
Right.
they've got to do something about the big man problem. Everything else is an in-house fix that will take time to solve. Anything outside top six, but is a disaster for the Celtics.
Totally agree. I like the Aldridge fit as well. I think he fits in well into the culture of the Celtics, and
Hmm.
he provides that experience that they lack, right? Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, like you said, they're young.
Yeah.
Marcus Smart is their only experienced guy, or acts like the only experienced guy.
Hmm.
But I think Aldridge would provide them that. Plus the game he brings on court. So I like that fit, and I think that is something that might happen as well.
I'll say this though: if I were Aldridge, or if I was
Mm-hmm.
picking Aldridge's best destination, which would be the most fun for us and would make sense for the team, I'd
Mm-hmm.
actually say go back to the Trailblazers. Go back where you came from. You could
Mm-hmm.
add a ton of value there. Nurkic is
Mm-hmm.
always in some hospital or the other. They could really use a big that can bring in the kind of scoring and spacing that Aldridge can bring in, because they've got a pretty elite backcourt in Portland that can score in the paint, finish under the rim. So they could really use Aldridge.
Great. We're just a week away from the trade deadline. I think that'll be something that will happen soon, and we should be hearing about it anytime now.
Yeah.
Just the last team that we left out with, the Toronto, actually two teams, Toronto Raptors and the Chicago Bulls.
Mhm.
We spoke briefly about the Bulls. It's Zach LaVine or nothing, but I like the Raptors. They're a team that are just a few wins away from the fourth spot, and they're a team that I wouldn't count out ever, even if they're in the 12th, 13th, 14th, whatever, because of the value, or how do I say, they're like the Miami Heat. You know that they will bounce back. Am I right in assuming that? Do you think they will trade Kyle Lowry and then tank and then rebuild from next season, or do you think they will stick with Lowry, give him a sort it out at the end of the season? If anything, Van Vliet is back, and then they start winning games again.
The closer we get to the deadline, I think the less likely they are to trade Lowry, because they're not going to give him up for nothing. For two reasons: A, they can still get good value for Kyle Lowry.
Yeah.
He's
Yep.
a chip-winning season multiple times to the conference finals guy. He'll add a ton of value on a lot of teams, and he plays both ends of the floor. So they can get something for him. That's reason one. But reason two would be he's so intertwined with the Toronto Raptors legacy. He's almost a brand ambassador for them on and off the court, a family guy for them. That they're not going to trade him to just about anywhere. It won't be any place that gives us the best deal. They're going to make sure that he likes where he's going, that they put him in a position where he's still motivated to continue playing. I think this will be a mutually decided trade, if at all a trade happens, right? So for all of this to work out, I think the closer you get to the deadline, the slimmer the chances are that Lowry would move this season. Even if he does move, and I would expect they'd get good value in return, I wouldn't expect them to actively tank. If it happens, it happens. I don't think they're the kind of team that will tank. That's not the program they're running. So absolutely, I expect them to bounce back. And since we're not too far away from the deadline, I don't think, like, it's unlikely that a Lowry trade happens. We would have heard something by now. There've been some rumor somewhere. So if they do retain Lowry, then for sure, if not top 4 or top 6 team, they can always gun for that. It'll be an upset if they make it to the top 4. Let me just say that. But they're one of the teams that I look to dethrone the Hawks from wherever it is that they're sitting on the table, 7th, I believe. I think if their players are all back and fit, and we got a glimpse of that early on in the season, I'm sure that Nick Nurse can whip them into shape and put a system around that makes the best use of their talents, and they'll get a whole lot more wins. They're probably in better shape than Chicago Bulls. Honestly, once all their players are back fit, they can go neck and neck with the Knicks, and they can absolutely take the Hawks. So they're moving up for sure. It's 6th is a success story, but even if they make it to the play-in games, I'd fancy their chances to nick a few here and there and get to the playoffs.
Okay, that was the Raptors. Any chance for the Wizards, you think? Because they had a nice run, upsurge in form,
Stop it.
but they're slowly falling back again, right?
Can we not do? Are you serious? Wizards should just tank. They shouldn't bother. They should tank. I've heard enough of Westbrook's competitive spirit. I'm sure it's right up there with the best of them. But the situation that they're in, they should tank. They've not had too many injuries ravage their results. They've not had too many reasons for the kind of win-loss record that they have right now. They should tank. get a good draft pick a good talented player, build around that. Because Westbrook is getting older. At some point, they'll need a replacement plan. They should do that rather than waste their chances. Look, if they make a push for it, they can get to the playing games.
Mm-hmm.
And then in a scenario like that, Bradley Beal, Westbrook, it'll be tough to overcome these kind of guys. But I think it's best for them to tank. Their best case scenario is playing games. Do I expect they'll make even that? I sincerely doubt it.
Okay. Any final predictions for how these teams will line up? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 even.
That's a lot of. I
Okay,
think
4,
Heat
5,
are good.
6.
Yeah,
4,
I
5,
think
6 to finish the direct qualification to playoffs.
yeah, let's do that. So I think Heat are good for the fourth. I think the top four would largely be that Sixers, Nets, Bucks, Heat in some order or the other. I think at max you'll see 1 and 2 shuffle and 3 and 4 shuffle. Fifth place is interesting, right? I would actually still bet on the Celtics to finish fifth. I'd say Hornets finish sixth, and I think the Pacers would make it up there.
Oh, okay, interesting. That was my pick as well. I think the Heat would finish fourth, Celtics finish fifth.
Yeah.
I actually picked the Pacers to finish sixth because I think they have the quality in them to just jump back up in there.
Mm-hmm.
And the Raptors, Hornets, Knicks, and
For the
probably
playing
the
games.
out. Yeah, that was my pick. Any deadline trades that you see, any deadline day trades that you see happening for any of these teams? I think, like you said, the Celtics. I'm sure they will go for one big man. It could be LaMarcus Aldridge. It could be any of those big guys we discussed earlier. It could be Vucevic even.
Yeah,
Miami Heat. I'm looking at them. You think any trades for them?
I'd be surprised if they make a move right now. I think they're good if all their players come back fit. At least now, like they don't need to stir the pot mid-season. Celtics, I'd love to see them trade, but their GM has almost mastered the art of almost getting there and not closing a trade. So I won't be surprised if they come up short. I think you'll see some big man movement. You'll see Aldridge move around. You've already seen Blake Griffin move. Could be one of McGee or Drummond goes out of Cleveland. Maybe Miles Turner gets destabilized. I've already mentioned Aldridge. So I think there's going to be some amount of big man movement. Maybe even Sacramento gives up one of their bigs, Whiteside maybe, who's like option 3 right now in their squad. I think that's where the action is gonna lie. I don't think we will see too many but there are hardly any good wings left that are destabilized. I don't think we'll see guard movement either. I think the big man game is where it's at.
All right, so that's all for today. I think we had a ton of discussion about a ton of teams.
Yeah.
So this was fun doing this, and I think I will talk to you tomorrow after tomorrow's games.
Sounds good, man. Take care.